Welcome to the space between. What is money is one of the questions that will define this time on planet Earth. We are seeing the transformation of the global financial system, including monetary policy and most recently trade. In this transformation, new assets have been created. Crypto, founded in 2009, is a very polarizing topic. You hear everything from this is the only way to build quick wealth to it's a scam to steal money from people. We know our financial systems are evolving and global currency and assets are changing by the day. Tony Tate is the owner of Live and Invest Realty, and he has been on the cutting edge of crypto assets for decades. He is a crypto and blockchain subject matter expert and has a deep understanding of what these digital assets and technologies are and the possibilities that lie ahead. Join us as we connect through conversation. Welcome to the space between. My name is Alyson, and I'm so excited to have you guys join us for another Space Between podcast. Tony Tate.
Hello. How are you?
Welcome to the space between.
I am feeling very welcome here.
And you're ready to rock. December 2024, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Mr. Christmas.
For those of you who celebrate Christmas, it is a pagan holiday. However, it has been over commercialized. But Jesus is the reason for the season. And if you don't like Jesus, that's cool too. He loves you though.
We accept all people.
We do accept all faiths. Unless you're like a devil worshiper. I can't.
It's not your jam.
It's not.
It's not your energy.
I don't look, although I'm wearing a lot of red today, it's just not something I can do with the utmost confidence.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand. So we're going to talk about what I think is probably one of the more important things in the news right now is cryptocurrency.
Okay. Yes, crypto.
That's our theme today.
Yeah, crypto assets have definitely been kind of a strange bedfellow of mine for almost going on, I guess, this is 2024, almost be 2025. So it'll almost be 14 years for me as far as my experience and being introduced to it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So yeah, a lot of fun.
Which is exactly why I wanted to have you on. Also, we met in our real estate and mortgage business.
Yes. You're the money mama.
Yes.
I'm the real estate Tate.
Absolutely. And it's never ceases to amaze me with this work and this podcast, how my mortgage side and kind of some of the other businesses I have always bring me to the people I'm supposed to meet.
I believe that also. My grandmother used to always say there are no inopportune moments. There are just people who don't take opportunity of the moment.
Grandma knew what to say.
She did. She said a lot of other colorful things, but I won't do that on your podcast. She is part of
you can feel free. As you know me by now. Feel free to say whatever you like here on the space between, and we'll do what we can with it.
We'll do what we can.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? Who is Tony Tate? What do you do? And then we'll jump into our theme. I know it's the toughest question I'm going to ask you today. I'm out the gate with who are you?
It is tough. It's just for me. I've gotten to this place in my life, being a grandfather married to the wonderful, my wonderful wife, who's my Midwestern farm girl from Indiana. And, so for me, I've just been in this place lately where nothing's about me. I'm here for everybody else. So when I have to dial it back, talk about me, I would love to say that we were poor and I was the son of a sharecropper, but technically we were so poor we couldn't even share the crops. So, but as it pertains to what I do as a profession, I am a blockchain analyst, spoke at a lot of stages all across the country as a subject matter expert, whether that is talking about the nexus between real estate, blockchain, and different types of crypto assets. I've been doing this for a little bit of time. So
just a little bit.
And
we're down here in Tampa, Florida. I took the space between on the run, and we've not met in person.
I
just had breakfast with my husband, and it was amazing. You have so many conversations with people, and that's what this podcast is all about: connection through conversation. Get in person, guys. Yes. Meet your people if you can, because it's so important.
I think so too, and it's funny because I would tell my agents, guys, listen, you're actually let off the hook when you're meeting with clients and colleagues via Zoom, because they can only see you and hear you. So you're only really talking about two of your senses. Right. But when you're in person, if I stunk, you could also smell me. And that might also, if you're like me, when things smell really bad, it starts to affect my eyesight because I'm flickering with my eyelids.
So if I start seeing you doing that, then I realize I have a problem.
You could be right. It could be. Allegedly, we don't cast aspersions on anyone.
But you're right. It's a feeling that you have when you meet somebody.
Yeah, it
100%.
Feelings.
So, okay, let's talk about crypto. It is pervasive now. We are post-election.
Yes.
And it's early December 2024. We're in another bull run. That's probably all people know about crypto. So we're going to wind it way back.
Sure.
What is your definition of cryptocurrency?
Well, and I'm not, trust me, I'm not like a grammar Nazi or anything like that. I don't use the term cryptocurrency. I use the term crypto asset.
Okay, so let's do that.
Yeah, we'll say crypto asset because when you're talking about the blockchain and crypto assets, you have crypto and then you have cryptocurrency. And if you look at crypto and blockchain, like if the blockchain was a train track, crypto would be the train that runs on the
top
train
of
track, right?
It's a great analogy.
And so the currency, being the word currency being used, that I think
it's a piece of it.
Yeah, it only does like there's about 7 different layers when you talk about the impact of Web 3.0 and crypto and things like that. And without getting like super technical and super geeky, because I can totally geek out on this stuff, what I will simply say is this, value, and you've probably said this before in your profession, but money follows value, not price.
Totally.
Right. And so
100%.
there is a value to that. So regardless of the financial implications of crypto, if the value, meaning it's everyday use, then, and if we're going to talk about Bitcoin specifically, it should never be transacted as a means of transaction. It should always be thought of as like a digital gold, which is more or less a storage of value.
Right.
So this is, you may, if you invest in Bitcoin, you don't invest into it, flip it. You got all these trader bros that are probably going to be at me out there because they're Bitcoin versus US Tether and this,
everyone on Reddit.
Trade, baby, to the moon. Yeah, okay. Calm down, crypto bro.
Yep.
Which is one of the handles that I had at one time, crypto bro. But
you did early on too, right?
But because I'm a brother,
Not
brother.
because you were that guy.
Not because I was that guy, but because I'm a brother from another mother in a different color. So that was why I was crypto bro.
Right.
So
Very
I remember,
different than what
it was a radio persona because I was a contributor to the Benchwarmers, which is an iHeartRadio show based out of Orlando.
Okay.
And you had Derek and some of those other guys. So I was crypto bro on that show. So we talked about it a little bit. But I think the biggest thing about crypto that people need to really understand is that it isn't going anywhere.
Absolutely.
And post-election, you had over $5 million donated at the present value of $64,000 a token that was given to, the president-elect.
Yep.
So now you're looking at, everybody that gave him that, you gave him, so for every 64 cents, everybody gave him, now he has $1.
Right.
Which is way better than chitty chitty bang bang because like you try to make $1 out of 15 cents. But here you are here with it being, 6 digits now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, you got into it in 2011. We've talked about this a few times.
Yeah.
The $100,000 mark was a massive deal.
Well, it's a psychological number, just like the $10,000 mark was, just like the $1,000. When you start getting into, different digits and spaces,
it is
being held,
it's all psychological.
It's all psychological. Yeah.
Exactly.
1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 25,000, 30, 50, 100. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to get too excited until the next time when crypto crosses 250,000.
That's probably the next marker because now the exponential
for
growth.
me, yeah. It'll hit 200. It'll probably still hit $200,000 probably about third quarter 27.
Right.
But I think I definitely think Bitcoin will probably be 250 by 2029. That's just my personal prediction based on my experience. The last, 12, 13 years, almost 14 years in the space.
Yeah. So
that's not investment advice, by the way.
Yeah, right. That's enough. We're going to also.
Is that going to be a disclaimer?
1,000%.
Okay. All right.
There's no actual advice on the space between.
No.
All it is just a conversation. And if somebody wants to take something from it, that's great. If they don't, that's fine too.
It's just the space between.
Exactly.
Your experience and my experience.
That's exactly what it is.
Between.
So Okay, let's take a step back. We'll get into the blockchain. We'll kind of do. So 2011 hits. I'll take a pause here. I had a dream. I don't even think I told you this. I had a dream in 2019.
Black children and white children could join hands together.
I mean, that
dream.
That's the ultimate dream. But this was more of a different dream in 2019. Okay. But that is the ultimate dream. That's the ultimate dream. In 2019, I had a dream, and an angel came to me and was talking about ethereal. Kept saying the word ethereal. Okay. And I wake up, and I said to my husband Oliver, I'm like, there was something to do with money and something to do with like a new system, and they kept saying ethereal. I had no idea. Like, I had heard of crypto. I didn't really think twice about it. I'm an Aquarius rising, so I'm always like excited for whatever's to come. And this is the decade of more transformation than the last 10,000 years.
Well, this is the age of Aquarius.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we knew that something new was coming, and it's not as new as people think, which is what we're going to talk about today. But I said to him, I go, is there some digital something, currency, Ethereum? He goes, Ethereum is... So then I started looking into the blockchain, and it completely blew my mind. I was like, this solves so many problems that we have.
Yeah, it does.
It just, I couldn't get enough. I couldn't read enough. I couldn't absorb enough. And I just went like down this massive hole because, of course, in the digital age, all the information's out there. Yes. You just have to go access it. Right. So then that's when we started looking into crypto, and we started investing in it, and everybody told me I was crazy. So why don't we take it back to 2011? Because if they thought I was crazy in 2019, how did you get involved?
Well, so my grandmother, Helen, she, I love the she's no longer with us. She was very big on what was in the Bible, and so she confused crypto as the one world currency, and
from the stories of the Bible,
and the
Revelation
and things like that.
I was raised in church, so I know exactly what that book says.
Yeah, so I was encouraged to go to church as a means of survival, because if I didn't go, my grandmother would kill me.
Yes,
but for the most part, noticing that, I had some friends who were running an internet gambling thing in the Caymans back before there was the kind of stuff that could get you in trouble or whatever with all of that.
Right.
It was pretty interesting, because did a lot. I've done a lot of projects where there were, SEO, SERP, database management, building websites for people who were actually in the real estate space, mortgage space, lawyers, doctors, and title companies. Those are my five.
So a lot of web stuff for those people who don't know all those acronyms.
Yeah, so a lot of web stuff, and for people that were in those professions. And so some of my programmers that I would subcontract to were overseas. And PayPal, they were having difficulties with PayPal, which is kind of ironic, because now PayPal has dipped into the foray of crypto, has for the last few years.
Yeah, for sure. They were one of the first,
Yeah, which is interesting, because there were people that, and I'm not bashing PayPal. I mean, I'm sure everybody had their different reasons why they couldn't get verified through their process, but it seemed like every time I would pay a subcontractor over $1,000, they had, hey, redo this. Right. When I think maybe I set up my PayPal business profile like once, and that was it.
Right.
So, and it could just have been, different countries. You're just making sure, different regimes.
You were contracting people all throughout the world, and it's complicated. Right.
For sure. And PayPal seemed to be a payment system that allowed me to do that for those folks. And so they kept having issues. Say, can you just pay us in Bitcoin? I'm like, well, I mean, sure, if you guys want to internet gamble your money away. And then one day I just kind of happened to notice it went from $17 to $35. And then $35 to $100 and something. And then next thing you know, it was $214. $244 back in 2014. I was just like,
that's a big jump.
There's something here.
Right. You didn't know what.
For everything that we could have bought for $1.18, and for everything that we did, so I'm giving them less and less, because in 2011, that's when Bitcoin got paired to the US dollar.
There you go. And I didn't know that until today.
Yeah, it got paired. So I'm noticing that I'm giving them less and less to pay them the same amount of money.
You're like,
And so then,
meanwhile, the dollar's been losing.
Yeah, look, we don't even talk about the dollar, but it was just something to me that I had to pay attention. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. There's something should be off.
Right.
And it just became, then For me, it became really real in 2014, was a hope in 2016. I was after 5 years being exposed or being around this, I was like, this is something.
Yeah.
This is something.
And what was Bitcoin at that point? 15, 16?
It had recently gotten up to about $500 a token. And then I think it went down to around one. I don't know. I don't have any charts in my head right now.
Because it goes like that. We'll tag
we'll talk about the
that.
volatility later. But yeah, it was interesting because I was like, so this thing is pretty volatile, right? This is like, and I can say this because I'm part Latino. This is like, the way some quinceañeras would go. You get there. Some people arrive drunk. Then they sober up and they're cool. And then they get drunk again.
Analogy.
And then they're like, so I can say, like I said, I can say this because I'm talking about my people. I'm Latino, Native American, and I'm Black. And, it is what it is. So it's pretty volatile, right? It's a volatile asset.
Yeah.
And because of its volatility, I remember when you used to be able to buy crypto with credit cards.
What year was that?
That was 16, 17.
Wow. And it's not really that long ago in the grand scheme.
Yeah. Oh,
imagine today if you could.
I had some brothers that was like, hey man, let's just go get us one of them Capital One credit cards. They approve everybody for like $500. So we get a Capital One credit card. Yeah. They go buy like, I think it was like 3 or 4 Bitcoin on it.
On credit card.
On credit card. On credit card, right?
And this is 2016.
This is, yeah.
Look at how far things have come.
So then they get about 3 or 4 Bitcoin. Yeah. Bitcoin goes from 989 at this point, like January 2017 or something like that. It's like 99 or something. Then it goes to like 19,000 by the end of the year. So yeah.
That's a return.
Yeah. So they're like, let's pay this little credit card off. And then that was when
they're not worried about the interest of the Capital One card.
Yeah. So that's when I noticed that Coinbase was like, no, we don't like crypto. Because then it became known that is how people play their weed dealer, with crypto.
Right.
They started paying for weed with crypto.
There has been a ton of bad press around, just in general, around the whole crypto ecosphere.
Yeah. It would be like
it was dogged for a very long time. People probably thought you were out of your mind.
Yeah, it's like if Honey Boo Boo was a currency.
Yeah.
And then
all
she
over the place.
Just everywhere and just ratchet. Like this was just you're ratchet, your mama's ratchet, everybody's ratchet because you're dealing with crypto. You're shady, you're dealing with crypto. But
you knew something. You had that inherent knowing in this. So much of the space between and what we talk about on this podcast is what feels right for you. For me, it was a dream, and I trust everything that comes into my field. And I said, I need to go do something about that. So, and you knew in those points of time, like, this is something real.
I couldn't put my finger on it, but here's the thing that I did know that was just kind of inherent, right? I knew this in my soul. Growing up, where I grew up in, let's just say government subsidized housing. We won't talk disparagingly about a neighborhood. We never thought about anything that had no value.
Yeah. Okay.
Think about it. Like even, and that's how I knew that there was, whether you believe in God, the universe, whatever, but a lot of blood has been shed in the name of God.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So
probably more than anything else. Yeah.
But then you see all these different variations of God.
Yeah. So
God must be real. So a lot of people are just wrong about what that looks like. Same thing with like money. Right. So but what I started noticing was that, okay, first it was cool to buy crypto with credit cards. Right. Why not anymore?
Right.
Then, because one of the first, which is a now defunct crypto exchange based in New Zealand, was called Cryptopia. It was one of the ones that I first started using crypto with back in, the 2010s. Converting it to US dollars and putting it in my checking account.
Right.
ACH, boom, there you go, baby. You sell the crypto, you buy it. Hey,
there wasn't nearly as many people trading. It was probably left.
No,
Bam,
not at all.
There it was.
No. The Kiwis were on top of it because that was the first global one that I knew about. Then you came about Kraken and a few others, but and then you've always had the Binance, and stuff like that.
And what's an exchange for people that don't?
So an exchange is just like it sounds. If you want to go to Mexico, you go to the little exchange booth and you decide you want to exchange dollars for pesos. I don't know why you want to do that, but if you want to do that, you can do that. If other than just, hey, let me just throw some money. I don't want to buy a painting. I'll just go buy some colorful Monopoly looking money in Mexico that has a lot of zeros on it, right? So you can do that. So an exchange
it's the same thing.
Same thing. Yeah, you exchange one crypto for another crypto, and then maybe if you decide to liquidate that, you convert that crypto into a stable coin. That way you don't have to worry about any volatility when you decide to cash
and a
it
stable
out.
coin today is
USDC is an example of a stable coin, but a stable coin is a coin because you also have a USDC that is based on the euro. You have a USDC that's based on
the dollar,
on different things, right? So you still kind of have that nexus. So
you have those options.
Yeah, you have those options.
When
so
we convert to USDC.
Yeah, because that way you don't have to worry
against the dollar because we're here.
Yeah, because you're here. If you're in Europe, you'd probably want to do differently unless you had a US.
So you have your stable coins. Bitcoin would be considered what?
Bitcoin was not a stable coin. Bitcoin is a stable coin is a coin that does not fluctuate in value, hence the name stable coin.
Exactly.
So it was a
for those that are learning.
Yeah, full on raging crypto asset, baby. And it was like, so like, if remember back when before we had all this college playoff series and they used to refer to the Rose Bowl as the grandfather of the bowls.
Yes, that's what Bitcoin is.
Bitcoin is like the grandfather of all crypto, from which everything has came. Bitcoin would be crypto's Adam, like Adam and Eve. From all other cryptos, this flow. But actually, anyway, we don't want to get into all of this stuff because I can geek out over this stuff because I lived it. So it wasn't like I read it and did a research paper on it, you know? So, but yeah.
Well, you wrote the papers, to be fair.
I don't know about all that. I am not Satoshi Nakamoto. That was all established way before me. I'm just somebody that came along, saw this stuff and got it. So, but to that end, I think.
So then you have the Bitcoin, which is more of, it's not a stable coin, but it's not going anywhere. It's still volatile, but then you have your meme coins, AKA shit coins, AKA the hawk to a girl, which happened last week. I mean, these are the things that piss me off. But you know what? There's polarity everywhere.
Yeah.
And as there's Bitcoin, as there's this shit coin. And Doge at one point was a meme coin.
Yeah.
And now
you got Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy trying to
Vivek, and now it's going to be a whole different thing.
I don't know what's going on in that scenario. All I know is that I
didn't expect that, by the way.
It's like I just want to see what happens. You know, it's like, what is going to happen? So
you have different levels of coins, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of different classifications.
And you call them an asset, which, by the way, I'm going to start doing now.
Yeah, it's a crypto asset.
It's a crypto asset. And then we have the blockchain. So I am obsessed, like I said before, with the blockchain.
Oh, okay.
What is your definition of what the blockchain is? Because you have all of these coins, and then how do those two things play together?
A blockchain is just a digital ledger.
Yep.
It's electronic digital ledger.
Exactly.
It's how you see what this is. So I could go back and pull up a Bitcoin wallet address that I had 10 years ago.
Yeah, and it's there.
And put that Bitcoin wallet address in a Bitcoin Explorer, blockchain Explorer, and see every transaction that I made. How much of a gas fee? And a gas fee is just kind of like, what you pay for it's like think of a processing fee. That's what they used to call a gas fee back then, or GWEI. So that's just basically how you would move. You pay the network a certain amount of your crypto to move your crypto from one wallet,
which can be very expensive, depending
on the
whether
traffic.
Shit's popping.
Depends on the traffic.
I didn't know until I knew in real time. I'm like, oh my God, if I want to convert this now.
Think of it as Christmas shopping, right?
You and your analogies, by the way. Thank you for bringing these amazing.
Well, no,
because people don't know what this is and they're confused. And so this helps.
High network times can be equated to high shopping times, right? Like think of, if you want to go buy something on Black Friday, the traffic is going to be crazy, and you might sit in traffic longer, running out the gasoline in your vehicle.
You might, right, exactly, or you might have the wheel online,
exactly,
right. You're just not able to click submit.
Exactly. So you try to go and get something and it's gone, and so then you have liquidity,
right?
And the law of supply and demand basically says the scarcer something is, the more value it has, and it goes up. So whether it's supply and demand of the number of houses on the market, or supply and demand on how many American dolls that they have at the Target,
it's all the same. And it goes back to what you keep saying about value.
Yeah,
because value is right, exactly. And I think I believe that we're in sort of an end stage capitalistic, interesting time. Things are really out of control. The top is
we don't have enough time to get into all of that.
We already did that as another episode this week, so I can always have you back if we can talk about.
I will come back as long as you will have me, or as long as your audience does not boycott you for having me on.
Absolutely not. People are going to go ape shit over this episode. I'm just telling you right now. Because this is such a hot topic. Like, I want to bring people on that have it's all about your experience, right?
Yeah.
Because I could sit here with someone else that got into crypto in 2011, had a totally different experience.
I swear to you, there are people that are on my Facebook feed right now that I was trying to talk to about crypto only because not because I'm not trying to push it out there, because I didn't really want nobody to know that I had crypto.
No,
I just didn't. Like,
I did for the first 2 years. I didn't tell anybody but my family and my close friends.
So there's things that, so I'm old school, like, you know, we don't talk about how much money we have. We don't talk about our faith, and we don't talk about, you know, we don't talk about religion, politics,
religion, sex.
Yeah. Well, no, we talked about sex, but that was complete. I don't know about you. I had a different family, but we talked about sex, like, and not like salt and pepper. Let's talk about sex, baby. No, it was completely different. I came from a family that is probably hypersexualized. Sorry if y'all want to like not invite me to some of the stuff, because some of y'all can't cook anyway, so I'm good. But for the most part, when you're talking about things that I've seen, there are people that are right now. And you have, because it's not regulated. So let's be clear.
Right.
Nowhere. I don't care. And I swear, there is a company that I cannot stand. And I want to say their name so bad, but
let's not.
I'm not going to do that.
I don't want to be shadow banned on YouTube. Yeah. I want people to hear this.
There is an organization that's out there telling people that they can be a crypto certified real estate specialist. Right? And it's not regulated. And I have been on the other side of a negotiation from somebody, because I've done almost 300 transactions.
You've transacted
in real estate with crypto. And that's not even
which is very rare.
Which is not even the transactions that I've done where I took a piece of property and I tokenized that property on the blockchain, and then I sold pieces of that property in a crypto project where people could have fractional ownership. I just get jazzed by this. I could totally be a geek if I wanted to about this, but we're speaking to layman here. So for me, in the grand scheme of things, experience in this matters. This isn't a pipe dream. These are things that I've done and I've proven.
Whether I've been learned good and bad and indifferent.
Learned good and bad.
Right.
I've lost. I've made substantial money, and I've lost substantial money because of the people that I chose, not because of the endeavors that I had already vetted, that I've looked at, because my background is technology.
Crypto's a big community too. And I think that's one thing that people don't understand, because you're going to hear about the crypto bros, you're going to hear about this bullshit, but there's a lot of really good people that we've met in our even quick sort of shorter crypto travels. You tend to flock with people. There are the unethical people, and then there are people that are doing things ethically.
Yeah, you're gonna have good doctors, bad doctors. Yeah, you're gonna have good doctors and bad doctors. You're gonna do that. So
it's just like anything else,
right? And having said all of that, there should be success leaves clues.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so there should be there's different things from when you're having to prove a model versus when you already have proved the model. You know it works because it is working and it has been lucrative. And then you are being approached by people to further, for the furtherance of that model, to share
or share your assets or whatever it is, to partner into other things.
For sure. Like for certain things, like if somebody was coming to me and asked me for certain things, like certain things, man, I give to you free of charge. Right. I don't have a problem with that. But there are certain things, I'm extremely expensive. Like
you have an amazing experience and track record with us.
I look like this. I am Pretty Woman Julia Roberts expensive when it comes to certain conversations because of what you want me to do. Exactly. They always say, I don't know who it was that coined the phrase first, but they say when you're really good at something, you don't do it for free. And when you're great at something, you charge twice as much.
Right.
Because there is a value. There's an inherent value to that. This is going to cost you a lot more money to have Elon Musk come and speak at your commencement,
of course,
than to have me come and speak at your commencement.
Right.
We're going to talk about the same thing.
Right.
We're going to cover the same thing, but there's a higher value placed on being around an Elon Musk than a Tony Tate. And quite frankly, in certain circles, there should be.
Right.
But I do think that I'm a better dancer because I saw what he did at that rally. And quite frankly,
it was embarrassing.
Look, he, I think he's a great person.
Maybe you can teach him some moves.
Let me say this. I don't know him as a person. I think he's done some great things.
Yeah.
He's made some great contributions to society, but I think I would own him on a dance floor. That's just my own personal confidence.
I agree.
That's just how I feel.
I could.
So if you know him, just tell him he's been challenged. And then I'm going to be shut off for Twitter. No more Twitter for me.
No, it's all. A lot of people are going off X anyway, so you won't be the first and the last.
All right.
So let's talk about like money, right? Because obviously there's the asset of crypto, which can create generational wealth in a way that literally, as we sit here today, nothing else possibly can. I'm making a statement. I don't think that any longer is a theory or a thought. I think that it has been around long enough that there, in my opinion, there is no other way to make these gains, these types of gains,
correct,
with any other asset that exists.
I'll even do it for you this way. There was a particular lady who was a lawyer, and she decided to stop being a lawyer because we tracked people that was when I was the CEO of a company called Currency Cadets that's no longer in existence now. We had a training program, and we would take people and we would spend via Zoom before Zoom was popular. We would spend time with them, teaching them what is an exchange, how to do this and how to do that. And we would let them record or do whatever. So this lady, she was an attorney. She had a son who was a freshman in high school. I'm sorry, no, he was a seventh grader, right? He'll graduate this year. And she was one of the people that we took over a period of 42 months that had, if it was at least $25,000 to make $1 million.
Right.
Just certain times to look at the market, analyze it, and make a decision that you feel is best for you. There was about 11% of those 300 people that we took from $25,000 to $1 million and just coaching them.
Right.
Well, if the worst students didn't do anything, I'm going to show you the impact of crypto.
Right. They did nothing.
They did nothing.
They just put something in and let it sit.
They just took their $25,000 worth of whatever they had.
Yep.
And they just simply, they took the $25,000 and they just turned around and said, all right, you know what? Crypto's $3,000. I'm just going to buy 8.33 crypto.
What would you have to?
That'd be about $833,000 right now.
Yep. If you did nothing.
If they did nothing. Now, they failed the assignment. All they did is just do that. So imagine a parent working hard in 2018. And there's others where somebody bought their mom a car, bought her a townhouse, over in Altamont Springs in Florida that we've coached, that we've done a lot of things with. And opportunity hasn't gone anywhere. It just looks different now. So I don't want people like, oh man, I should have got in. No, the best time to buy a house today, the best time was 5 years ago, right? So
exactly.
The
and it's never too late.
Yeah,
and there's so many other things besides Bitcoin, which we won't talk into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
it's been around 15 years.
Right.
Look at where we were in 1992 when the internet, and look at the internet now.
Exactly.
We imagine what crypto is going to look like in the next 17 years.
Even in the next year.
The next 17 years.
We're going to have so fast too.
We're going to have probably 3 or 4 more halving events between, we're going to have probably 5 having events.
Probably 5, yeah. Which we won't get into. It's geeking out.
Yeah, that's a different thing. But imagine that. So yeah, what I would tell people is the opportunity is going to be different. If somebody wants to do that, just make sure that you're not, go back and look and see please, at least if you're going to take crypto advice from anybody, please make sure that they've been in crypto longer than a minute, 2 years, at least.
And stay off of TikTok. I don't dislike TikTok. I'm not dogging TikTok. Just don't go onto TikTok for mortgage, real estate, crypto, financial advice.
Yeah, you just got to make sure that you don't give anybody financial advice.
Because that's what people are doing. And people are making really bad decisions. Yeah, and you can lose your ass. Well, in anything, but especially in crypto. We were stolen. We had people steal from us. We've been in it long enough now where you go through that. And
if you've never been ripped off in crypto, you haven't been in it long enough.
That's part of the deal. So please, another disclaimer, don't do anything that you feel like you can't lose, because I think what people have in their mind now is like, oh, it just always goes up.
It doesn't always go up.
It doesn't always go up.
I lost a friend because he bought Bitcoin when it was at $19,000 because he finally got on board what I've been telling him 12 months prior when crypto went from 1,000, when Bitcoin went from 1,000
to 9,000. When you told him to get in
when I
and
told
he
him,
didn't listen.
He didn't listen.
I don't tell anybody anything anymore. I did it too, and I will never say anything to anybody
again. But this was somebody that I knew was in a situation.
And it would have helped.
And I had a personal relationship with this person. Yeah. And they finally said, okay, I'm going to go get like 5 of them, right? Yeah. And it went over a period of 18 months. It went from $19,000 down to $3,000.
Yeah.
And, I lost a friend over it because he waited too late.
Yeah.
When he could have got it for what it ended up being. And imagine now, for every dollar you got $33.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
So, okay. We explained what the blockchain is. Let's talk about that for a second. What inherently happens in business and what inherently happens in financial services, healthcare, you name it, whatever structure, government, there's a lot of cooking of the books, right? Mm-hmm. Books are cooked. Shady will always shade. The blockchain, in my opinion, and you're more of an expert, so you can tell me if you think this is wrong, helps a truth and accountability into whatever is then placed onto the blockchain. As far as you purchase a house, right?
Mm-hmm.
That goes onto the blockchain forever. There's information attached to that can't be scrubbed.
Yeah, because it's immutable.
So explain what that means.
That means it can never be edited. You can't like backdate something that happened on the blockchain.
It's literally impossible.
You can't do that. I won't get into some of the experiments that we did, but we had a private VIP. Sale for a couple $1 million. People came in, looked at the house. There's a QR code. They could sign it. We put the entire process, the title, the local county government. We did all of that on the blockchain.
That's where this is headed.
Imagine being a real estate agent, then you take somebody to an open house, and then it's a bidding war, and everybody bids, and then whatever the highest bid is accepted, they close it, and then you're the winning bid. Somebody walks over, removes a blue velvet cover over a paper size scan QR code where you scan it and send $2.5 million, and everybody's congratulating you for winning. And then by the time you leave, you've already gotten an email from Xfinity to turn your cable on. You got an email from your water company letting you know that the water's on. Yep. The codes and the locks on the front door has already been changed
to whatever you.
And then an hour after that, it is now showing up on the Kings County Register
as your property.
As property that you own that has been deeded. Like that's there.
Yep.
But I will tell you that kind of transparency. Look, in my personal opinion, I don't think we'll ever have that in a governmental budgetary constraint, because
they're going to try really hard to make sure that doesn't happen.
So when you think about money, think about regime.
Right.
Changes.
100%. I totally agree.
So if you go back to the 50s, and I wasn't born then, although, I know somebody who was. When people stopped paying cash and started traveling and wanted to book a night in a hotel,
right.
They wanted to use these little things called Diners Club cards. Yeah. And these proprietors of these establishments were like, no, I'm going to need some cash, man.
Right.
You can take a little plastic, part your hair with it, or part your cocaine or whatever you want to do with it. But
do not bring it here and try to transact with it.
Yep. Now imagine if you go back, because there's only been about 5 instances of iteration with money. At one point, salt was considered currency.
Right. You would trade somewhat value, right? I need something, you have something. Right. We're going to trade. And that's what commodities are.
Right.
And
you had the barter system, and then you had salt, gold, silver.
Yep.
Right. You had that.
Yep.
Which is why one of the name, why Salt Block was one of the name of my companies that I have.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Salt Block. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I wish I could take credit for it, but it was a former colleague. She came up with the name, and I didn't like it at first, but it made total sense when you think about how salt at one point in time used to be considered currency. So you had gold, you had that, and you had precious metals.
Yep.
Then you had that turned into paper.
Yep.
And then you had that turned into credit.
Plastic.
And so now you have it's all digital, right? So a bunch of ones and zeros and some very sophisticated programs and algorithms that dictate all of that.
Exactly.
The amount of transparency on a blockchain, if we voted on a blockchain, we balanced budgets on a blockchain, that would change everything, because it would eliminate waste. And I don't know if that's an initiative that Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk is talking about when they had this whole Doge thing that they were doing, because any transaction.
It's what Department of Government.
It's not even a real department. It's just something that they made up.
Of course, smartly they.
Right. Yeah.
The acronym was DOT.
Yeah. Right. So. Yeah. It's Department of Governmental Economics or some
ethics,
crap.
or I don't even, something.
Whatever it was, I have no idea. But the point to all of that is, it probably, because when you think about regime changes, you think about banking, you think about mortgages, like, listen, the banking, here's something else. I'm sorry, I don't mean to backtrack here, but this is where I got, the first time I ever got mad because I was not a millionaire yet. December the 5th, 2018, Bank of America files a patent and a trademark for a cryptocurrency exchange. Now,
2017.
Keep in mind this, and I know this because I remember I was helping somebody find some crypto that they had lost through Bank of America, whatever. Turns out Bank of America disconnected and cut off their credit, turned off their checking account because too many transactions went back and forth with Coinbase. At this point in time, Coinbase hadn't fully been in America yet. before their offices before they got them in San Francisco.
Oh, see, I didn't
they were
realize that.
international, right?
Of course, because they had to be.
Right. So when they filed that, I'm like, why would Bank of America file a patent for a cryptocurrency exchange when
if they're the ones shutting that shit down?
They're telling people you can't use your debit card or your credit card to buy crypto. Why? It's a play.
That
and
was
then
another
then I found out that the American Express and Bank of America and Merrill Lynch, they were spending and investing $225 million as angel investors into Coinbase-related projects. And then you've got Jamie Dimon's daughter, the CEO, like just dragging him on the internet because of Chase. While Chase is turning around over there spending $75 million to help fund certain things.
And that really went through 2021 with that shit.
I can't tell you the level. I was like, I was so mad.
I'm sure
that I had this knowledge and I was not a billionaire.
Right. Because you weren't in the back rooms.
I wasn't in the back rooms.
And this goes back into what's happening now, moving into the age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
This backroom shit, it's ending.
I'm telling you right now, if I knew a billionaire that said, hey, Tony, I'm going to give you $100 million. Can you turn this $100 million into $10 billion in 6 years? I would love for somebody to have that private conversation with me, and I would tell him exactly how he would do it based on my experience if I was him. But I don't have anybody like that.
Right.
And I was so mad because at that time, I had just bought a Honda Pilot, and things were going really well for us, and crypto was being wonderful. And we started looking at what we're going to do for our kids and our grandkids and everything else. And because I don't flaunt.
No.
Like even
you're
now,
so humble.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that I'm humble, but what I will say this. People think that humility is like, oh, shucks, ma'am.
No.
That's not it.
That's old school humor. I mean, you have a lot of intelligence that it's different.
I just think of it, I can be, people think that being humble and then being modest. I'm not modest.
No.
I am not modest. I'm not a modest person. I'm not modest in my speech, tone, intent. I'm not modest at all. Modesty and humility, they are not synonymous with one another. No. I am humble because I know from which my blessings flow. I know that I am here but a hot second, in the grand scheme of the human existence on this planet. I know that. Yeah. I know that, I could be gone tomorrow on a freak accident. So I know that my existence here has to mean something for a few people, and I hope that I can touch people along the way.
Yeah.
But I also know what I know. I'm not modest, but I am humble. I appreciate what I've been given. But what I will say is this, as it pertains to all of that, it's hard when you know stuff that even if you were to share it, it doesn't get grasped to the level that you want to grasp it. And it's funny because my wife bought me this T-shirt that says, I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. And there are things that I wanted to impart on people that grew up looking like me that don't get a chance to have this as a level playing field. Right. So if you're in crypto, one of my biggest honors, it wasn't because of what they wrote about me in M and Connect and crypto and making millionaires.
Which we'll link below, but yes, it wasn't that.
It wasn't even that, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't even that. For me, It was being able to have an experiment with a group of second graders, explain the blockchain to them. They don't know nothing about money, and have a kid come up to me and say, it's kind of like this.
Because he got it.
He got it. A 7-year-old got it. Right. And the girl that she almost had it, I wanted to
Because there's less resistance.
Right.
And so many people that listen to this are going to be like, this is such a stupid topic. Yeah. So, get with it. Yeah. Because this ain't going anywhere.
Well, one of the things that I think I've been quoted the most as saying is that you better wrap your minds around crypto before the world wraps their arms around it.
It is changing and it's here. It's not going anywhere.
It's very, very important. So the little girl tried to explain, so, okay, this is like, and so she lined them up together like a chain. She took all the candy and lined all the candy up. And she said, okay, this is a blockchain, but imagine everybody can see it.
Yep.
Everybody can see that if I give you candy, everybody can bear witness to that. And so I might be able to go, I might be able to go and convince you that didn't happen to somebody, but these other people that are
they all saw it.
Validators, which they confirm a transaction on the blockchain, and once that's happened, boom, that's it. It's final. All these people can say they saw it, so that way it never happens. But I want to say his name is Wyatt, but I'm not gonna say his last name because he's still a minor, I think. But he used Legos on a big Lego table and said, okay, this here is me giving you a piece of candy. This here is you getting the candy. So you get a Lego. There's a Lego that writes down, I gave you the candy. There's a Lego that writes down that you got the candy. And then I'm going to do the same thing with everybody else. Right. But if you look, I can't go back and take that out without destroying the whole blockchain, which is the wall of Legos.
Which is what
That day, I bought that kid an extra chocolate milk because he got it.
And these kids, they're not tethered to a system that's not working for most
no pun
people.
intended, because Tether is a crypto asset.
Right. I didn't even think about that.
I know, right?
Right. Well, it's pervasive.
It is.
For sure. But the blockchain, and we talked about the age of
It's just
Aquarius.
transparency. It's transparency.
We are in the age of transparency. Look at what's happening. And I'm not taking a diversion. I'm just making a comment with celebrities. Look what's happening with healthcare. Look what's happening with the government. Look what's happening with literally everything. Media, you name it.
Yeah.
You can run, but you can no longer hide.
Yeah.
And if the blockchain had a saying, that's what it would be.
Right.
You can try, but it ain't going to happen here.
So when
it's done.
So when I talked about regimes earlier, you have to understand too that old money has been making money a certain way.
Right. And it's going to be interesting to see, because now they don't like new people making money. That doesn't serve them.
So I'll say this, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy enthusiast.
I love that.
So for me,
it's no longer a theory.
Yeah. So let's look at the Grayscale Trust. One of the bigger contributors, proprietors of our trust are descendants of the Rockefeller family, who also had ties to the J.P. Morgan Chase.
Yep. It's all
Foundation.
linked.
If J.P. Morgan Chase publicly can be talking bad about it, but then they're behind the scenes, they're buying it, and then they're also funding allegedly funding the formation of the Grayscale Trust, where for a long time they couldn't get their hooks into the actual Bitcoin and the mining of the Bitcoin and owning of the exchanges. So they started with Ethereum. And so for a while, Ethereum was the only thing that you could buy or invest in that trust. Right. Then you had the people that were like Robinhood, which to me was a joke in my professional opinion. And the views and opinions expressed by me does not necessarily reflect that of the space between podcasts. So let me just say that.
I'm pulling that out. That's going to be the first thing.
So let me just say that. So So I am my own animal. I am the same animal, or I'm a different animal, but the same beast. I believe that's how Kobe in the Conway commercial with Kanye. But the point is, when old money is used to making money the way they've been making it, they're not ready to, and they got a stronghold on it. Yep. Like I call the 12 different banks that make up the central banking system, I call it the Cartel 12.
I love that.
Because it
is.
Think about this. Okay. And this is where I taught this to my kid because he wanted $20 to go to the fair. He wanted to use a non-bank ATM. He had $21 in there. Yeah. The ATM told him he couldn't complete the transaction. Right. He was fuming because
he didn't understand. He's like, that's my money.
He's like, I got $20.
He's like, that's my money. You're like,
why are
you actually don't.
I said, the bank is literally, the banks, I don't want to get into all that because, again, this is another thing, but the banking, they're not about ready to give that up. They're
going to hold on to the last
church steeple is this high, but the bank building is this high. And every southern town, every major metropolis, Florida's part of the Bible Belt. You know, there's some parts of Florida I think is the belt buckle of the Bible Belt, but that's a whole nother story. What I will say to you is this: when you have made money a certain way, and you got people to subconsciously give you their money without thinking about it.
It's our system.
What's the ATM fee?
Yep, we just pay it. Nobody questioned it.
A $4 ATM fee gets broken down on average. 68 different people get a hand in that $4. Imagine that happening 17,000 times a day.
No, it was that many people.
17,000 ATM transactions a day. A day. Just an ATM transaction. The number one fee generator, that's why there's a lot of pushback on it, that banks would make money off of, not loans, not collateralizing anything.
Ancillary.
It was NSF fees. Yep. Because people can't count. They didn't bank. No. You notice they stopped.
And that is obviously targeted at a very specific population of people.
Yeah. Imagine not having home ec anymore. Remember when I was a kid, they taught you how to balance a checkbook.
Right.
I don't even know if they still have economics classes in high school anymore, you know, where you got to have a balance of checkbook. I have
no idea. Probably not.
You know, people, I see this stuff now. Oh, it's a life hack. No, that's just common sense. You talk about a life hack. Oh. We need to bring back that, you know, but again, I'm a boomer. So, whatever.
Barely.
People, barely a boomer, but whatever, people. I get it. But the point in all of this is that there is going to be a regime change, and it's going to happen by force.
Yep.
And the people that have always been in power from a money standpoint, because they own banks, they ran banks. There were banks. There were some banks during the saving and loan crisis before they came out with the Securities Act of 1933.
Since it's Christmas, watch What a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, A Wonderful Life.
That is the perfect way to understand how this whole thing started and escalated into the pit of hell that exists today with end-stage capitalism, which is where we sit today. And I'm so glad that was almost my second to final question. See, this goes exactly where it's supposed to.
It goes where it's supposed to go.
Because what is it, right? It's a lot of people that are going to hold on to the old way, and we're not having it anymore.
Yeah.
We're done with our dollar equals 82 cents or whatever the hell it is today. We're done with the oppression. We're done with the NSF fees. We're done with this bullshit. If you go and try to take all your money out of the bank, if you have over 250 grand, it's not there. There's no money in the bank.
I'm going to tell you a story that happened to me and I'm not going to change the name to protect the guilty. I went to the Bank of America branch in Lake Mary, Florida, off of Lake Mary Boulevard. Took there with my son. We had more than enough. And I went to pull out. Now, keep in mind, I've been banking there for years.
Yeah.
I decided I want to go pull out $50,000 cash.
Yeah.
They said, well, what are you using it for?
Yeah. That's the first thing they'll say.
I said,
it's none of your damn business.
It's none of your business. Well, it's my money.
Is it?
They're like, okay, well, I've got to put down something.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can put down whatever you want. It's none of your business what I spend my money. It's my money.
Yep. In that system, it's really not.
And that's another thing, because they've convinced us certain things that when we sign up, when we sign all this documentation.
Don't even try to read.
Yeah. We
when you open up an account,
we give them permission to do certain things to us with our money when we sign up for a checking account.
And it's the system.
Yeah. And then
it's not the teller's fault.
Right.
It is the system.
So and then they also had a moratorium on, they didn't want you to put any cash deposits in the bank over $3,000, which for whatever reason, there was a coin shortage after a while. You know why?
I remember
it costs 4 cents to mint a penny.
Oh, right.
I don't even want to get into all that.
We're not going to get into because the whole,
Yeah.
We'll have you back for a crypto part too. We can talk about mining and the processing.
But the point is, when I went to deposit more than $25,000 cash to the bank, I'm like, listen, this is money that I had sitting around because I know what's going on in the world. Yeah. Nobody really knew what was going on with crypto. I know if I need to, I know if there's going to be like a zombie apocalypse or whatever. Right. But
and they were
now I'm comfortable that I don't need to have large sums of money in cash in my home.
Right.
I want to just put it in the bank. Well, what is the source of the money? Savings. Right. What do you do for a living?
Right.
I'm in real estate.
Right.
Well, they gave me the third degree.
You're made to feel like a freaking criminal.
Then people are like, and then
when in fact it's the institution that is criminal. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here. I'm with my son, who is about to go off to the Air Force, and I'm just sitting here, and I'm just like,
and he's watching all of this. Going
I'm sorry. No, this is my youngest son. This is my other son who wasn't off the Air Force, but. The point was, I want to take cash out. They were telling me I can't have but so much of my own money.
Yeah.
And then they said, we have to order it. I'm like, what do you mean? That's when I found out that 13% of all of the money that we say that we have is only in physical money. The rest is being allowed.
No, in 2020, it's down to 8. It's
under
it was 13,
10. But no, last I looked,
in 2020, they did it again.
Well, this country was built on debt.
Yep.
But anyway, that's another thing. But yeah, crypto is not going anywhere.
Yep.
And I said this when I started talking to people professionally about it. It's not regulated. Anybody, any agency or organization come with all these different rules and what they think somebody should or should not do to be qualified as a subject matter expert, when in all actuality, it's not regulated.
No.
If I'm a doctor and I have a PhD in something, or if I'm even a lawyer and I have a Juris Doctorate degree, I'm expected to know certain things about the law. Yep. Okay. I can speak, about the law with impunity because I'm a lawyer.
Right. Because you have the credentials.
Because I have the credentials. But there's no such credential other like that in crypto. So just be careful.
Be very careful.
Be very careful. That's what we used to teach, because what we did in our currency cadets classes when we ran that school, now the school is called Blockology. When we ran that school, we actually We never did anything. We never had anybody's passwords or keywords or nothing. We met through Zoom and we would guide them through what they need to do for themselves.
And they would go do it.
And they would go do it. And that's
also, do not ever give anything about your wallet. Don't give it to anyone ever. It doesn't matter. That's how we got screwed.
Control your keys and you will control your cheese.
Yep. It's do not. I mean, once you get in, everyone's going to want, it's part of the learning experience. The one thing you could take away is do not dump all of your money into this. You can lose your ass. Be really careful with meme coins. You can buy fractions of Bitcoin and Ethereum now. It's definitely different than it used to be. And do not ever give up your codes.
Yeah, don't give it. Keep your keys. If you want to control your keys, that will enable you to control your cheese. That's how I always tell people to remember. Don't give it up. Don't give it up. Yeah.
So what do you think will happen? We're moving into 2025. Where do you think crypto will go in the next year? I mean, we can't even. I mean, we could talk about every 5 years, but let's just talk about when they were.
Yeah, not long ago they were. I stopped counting once it got past the 20,000 different types of crypto. Now we're into the 3 million different types.
It's crazy.
Some are just good old fashioned rug pull. Somebody. There's some companies out there's some tokens out there. The visual effects are awesome. They'll go and they'll get some white papers, or they'll.
I should have you back to talk about Web3 because that's a whole other.
I love that.
I love Web3.
Yeah, that's because that's on how I do the Bitcoin, not Bitcoin. Excuse me. Maybe it's Stellar or it's something else, but that is how that is what I do to do fractionalized ownership through tokenizing real estate. So I love that. I love that because that's big.
I'm going to link there's a couple podcasts that have really resonated with me that I'm going to link below if people want to find out about like these other pieces. But yeah, and I'm going to pull up some of the things that you have written about too.
Oh, cool. I have to dig.
So you have so we have all these coins. There's just going to be more coins, right? It's just going to get bigger.
Well, I will say this. A couple of years ago, I told people that if you have a child in kindergarten, by the time that child graduates high school, there will be no such things as checking and savings accounts. There'll be no such thing as a 2-day or 3-day. I
completely agree with that. No waiting period. Everything is immediate.
2-day or 3-day business. So, I mean, you can look at now, even with the advent of Zelle, right?
Oh, for sure.
So think about this. If you have a business checking account with Bank of America, Chase, something like that, you want to Zelle pay somebody amount of money, you can Zelle pay them up to $15,000 and they'll have it instantly.
Immediately. My payroll is 7 days.
It's
7 days to pay somebody in my business right now.
Right. So,
that's ridiculous.
So here's the thing. If I could send $15,000 instantly, right? Why in the world would, if I wanted to wire somebody, because it's a third party, like the average cost to send out a wire is $50.
Everyone's siphoning off.
They've got their hands in. It's a third party system.
That's the 67 people that you were talking. I mean, we don't even have an idea of how deep that goes. Everyone's got their hands in the.
I knew people. Someone approached me around 2000, and they gave me. They was like, "Hey man, you should sell process. You should be a credit card processor. You should sell credit card processing services." Like, I don't think the money's in it for me. He goes, "I don't think you understand credit card processing." And then he broke it down to me and told me how many different entities were at play.
Oh, I can't.
He told me.
I don't even want to know.
He told me the Visa.
It's going to make me angry.
He told me the reason why a lot of banks don't like the American Express thing is because of the control flow.
Yeah, because Amex controls it.
And then you got.
They don't like it.
And so then you have Discover, which was its own thing altogether, and you have Visa, MasterCard that's interchangeable, but there's two sides to that. Yep. So I was like, my first thought was, how can this be legal? Because this is all my money. But it is because we sign all these things to give people the rights to do what they want with our money, and we don't read what we sign when we open up a check account, right? We don't read that.
So you think we're going to start even waking up more to taking back our power and taking back our money? That's what I
don't know in 2025, but I can tell you what I think is going to probably go away. I think wire fees are going to be a thing in the past. I think wire fees and wiring money is going to go the same way that fax machines went.
Yep.
We don't fax anymore.
We don't need any other.
There's a joke out there.
Yeah, that's the blockchain.
Yeah, there's a joke out there when somebody's like, "Hey man, listen, I wanted to send over this offer for your property. I wanted to fax it to you. Like, where can I fax it?" And I'm like, "You can fax to me in 1986, Karen. We don't use fax machines anymore."
This is going to be wire fees and checking accounts.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, so basically, wiring fees are going to go the way of the fax machine.
Of the dodo bird.
Oh my gosh, that is wild.
Well, we have to end.
I know.
Tony Tate. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's really a lot of fun being here. Because this is the kind of stuff that I can sit all day and just sit in the Adirondack chair and have a nice, Macallan 25 or, some Glenlivet, or a smoky cab and some Adirondack chairs and watching people, from afar. Because I don't want them anywhere near me.
Chat it up.
A sneeze travels 26 feet, Alyson. I don't want people sneezing on me while I'm enjoying my whiskey.
That's beautiful.
But thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And we're going to link some things below. You also have an amazing real estate team. We can link that below.
Yeah. So if somebody, I'm actually looking for, I want to have even within my team, I want to have crypto agents that I can teach how I've done this. In title companies, I teach them how to transact, keep them out of title company jail, which is important.
Which is a lot
super
of
important.
What goes on.
Because they don't know, right? I got to make sure that they do the right things and make sure that agents, because real estate agents, we like to get out of our lane a lot because of we want the transaction. No. I know it sounds crazy, but we sometimes have a vested interest in how a transaction closes, and we want to kind of put our foot on the scale sometimes. We shouldn't. Because if you like your license, you should just do what your license says and pay attention to the code of ethics that the National Association of Realtors set forth if you're a realtor. But, again, look at what happened with NAR.
That's a whole other conversation we can have. So we'll link it below. And I just want to thank you for being here. This was great. And you helped so many people tonight, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Understand something that, don't be afraid.
Even that one guy I don't like. I hope I helped him too. Exactly. Then he could be less of a jerk.
Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining us in the space between today. And we will see you very soon for another episode. Thank you so much for joining us in the space between. We hope this conversation sparked connection for you. Please subscribe, and share this episode with someone who will find value. And make sure to tune into our next episode as we continue the journey into the core themes of our lives. We'll see you again in the space between.